Hello and welcome to the video for the game design class for Monday, April 13th. Hope you guys had a nice weekend and that you're gonna have some fun this week and maybe get to work on some games. So what I would like to do today, I had set a deadline of last Wednesday for you guys to upload your games, and I emailed you and told you that the Game Crafter website was going to be closed down for 3 weeks until April 24th. And so what that does is gives us some extra time to work on the games. But I also wanted you to upload what you have now, stick with that original deadline so that I could give you feedback on it. So that's what I'm going to do with this video is give you feedback on what you've uploaded. Now I know that you guys aren't all completely finished, the artwork isn't completely polished, maybe you don't have all the components uploaded, but I will look at what you have and give you feedback on that. And then if you want additional feedback, feel free to email me or send me stuff, and I will talk to you about that. So I'm going to be talking, it's almost going to be like, remember those forms that we filled out when we did the play testing, and we talked about the three different areas, aesthetics, dynamics, and mechanics, right? Now, obviously, one of those areas, dynamics, we can't really cover without doing actual play testing. So that hopefully you can get some information about by using virtual play testing through things like a tabletop simulator or any other options you have along that line where you can play together online. So I'm going to go ahead and sort of skip that category, that third category, and just focus on the aesthetics really, because also the mechanics I can't necessarily talk about unless you upload or send me a rule book. And if that's not up here, then we're just mainly going to focus on the aesthetics. So let's start here. We'll go to Barry and Borrow. I'm on the Game Crafter website. I've clicked on the link for my games. Um, and now I am, let's see, under my Make Games and then My Games, and then I've gone to Barry and Borrow, Spring Heroes. So I'll click on that. I'll be able to tell what you've uploaded by the little numbers that are here in the quantity, and I can see that there's a booklet here. So I can click on that, and that it's a medium booklet. And I can click on this to look at the different pages, and then here to click on the first one. So it says Barry and Borrow, your family game, the family game where good dogs stack up piles of bones by Spring Heroes. Okay, cool. So that looks good. You've got obviously this is the front of your rule book, and you've got a cool looking text going on here. Uh, I like this with the pause for the O's and the bones for the Y. Looks really good. And this is some idea of dirt or something. Now, one suggestion for you is you could consider putting some icons down here. And what I mean by icons are the things that I've talked about in a previous video. Icons that tell you how long the game will take to play, and how many people can play, and what the age range is. So an example of that might be here on my Wild Chord game booklet, rule book that I showed you. Let me go ahead and switch this to the preview mode so you won't see with any of those construction lines. But this one I'm talking about is, you have a bunch of empty space that, on the front of that game booklet. So you could put in something that talks about how long it takes to play the game, the age of the players, what age and up, and then how many players can play. Now, you might consider using a website to get your icons from. This one, game-icons.net, is a good one. I think I showed you this before. You can get a lot of cool icons here, and if you search online, obviously you can find other free vector art and pixel-based art and maybe more game icon sites, but this is one that you can consider. Okay, so that's your first page there of your booklet. One thing to consider is, if you click this disable cut lines, it's going to remove the cut lines around your booklet. It's going to show you where you cut it. Now, what I would recommend for this booklet and this artwork is take this blue color and extend it all the way out to the edge here, to the edge of the actual template file. And the reason is because um, this is called a bleed. And what this will do is it'll take your color and it'll bleed it all the way to the edge. And then when they cut right here, you'll still see that you'll still see the blue. Now, theoretically, it looks like the cut line extends inside where your blue area is, so you've maybe done a partial bleed. But really, with the printing process, things move around physically a little bit. Even if it's just a 16th of an inch or whatever, you can end up with a white line on the front of your book cover, and that's no good. So it makes sense in all cases when you want color to go to the edge in these templates, just bleed it all the way, take the blue all the way to the edge. Okay, and by the way, this disable color filter, they put a color filter on here to show you that the way things look on a computer and the way they're printed is different. So if you disable the color filter, this is the way it's looking on the computer, but what they're trying to tell you is it'll print a little bit more like this. Now, of course, when you're all done with this, you're going to have to approve every single item that you've uploaded, every card, every page, before it will actually print. Okay, now unfortunately I have to jump in and out of these pages. There's no mechanism for me to go to each one and then go to the next one unless I'm approving them. Then it will let me do that. Um, so here is your setup page, and it looks like it's very, nicely constructed. One thing you might consider is taking all this text and left aligning it, maybe everything except for the headlines there. When you center what's called body copy, it's a little more difficult to read than if it's left aligned, which is the way that we're kind of used to reading things. An example, once again, to go back into my book here, I'll just go to some random page. So you can see that the left alignment is sort of the norm for creating, well, any sort of text object. Okay, so let's go back here. We'll jump into just basically run around and look at these different pages. Okay, same deal here. Looks good. Looks like it's well laid out and a nice big font that's easy to see. Okay, this page looks good because we have some graphics here, which is really nice. Now, a couple different things you can do with these graphics. If you take these graphics and you save them as like PNG files, you can knock out the backgrounds, like the white background, and then just have it sitting on top of the blue. Another option, something you could consider doing for a page like this, is to create sort of a table look. Now, a table look would be something like let's say you created this in Photoshop. I think I can download this file. Let me go back. Let's see. I think this bad boy, and then copy image, and then new, and paste this in. Okay. So a couple options here. One thing if you want to take your images, and I'm just gonna grab one of these images and cut it off of here, and then edit it a little bit so you can see. But if you took this image and didn't do a very good selection of that, let me get a. It's not gonna be perfect, but it'll be perfect enough if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm gonna cut this off of here so I can paste it in on a new layer, and then do paste in place. So now that's in there on a new layer. Now the other thing I can do, this is just a little Photoshop trick, but just fill this with the background color so that it looks like there's nothing there. Okay, but now we have the bone on its own little layer here. I can click on all this stuff around it and delete it. It's not going to be there's still going to be some junk around there. It looks like there's a little side things here, the lines as well, which I'm going to try and get rid of. Little more difficult than it should be. Okay, well I'm just going to get rid of these lines here real quick. Okay, obviously it's up to you how you do this and how much time you want to spend getting rid of junk like this. But let's just assume you went through and got rid of all that little junk around the bones, or you had a clean file to begin with, so that wasn't really an issue. You can see how this looks, with just the graphic as opposed to having the white around the graphic. Now, if you are going to go the route of having like a color behind a graphic, you might do something like put a stroke around it. So let me go back. I'm going to go to my history here, go back to where the sort of the white still exists in this. Let's see. There we go. Um, let's see. Let me go back to where I've got this as its own separate file. There we go. Okay, so now we're back to where that's its own separate file. So you can select everything that's on this layer, which is essentially this bone, and you can add a stroke to it. Um, and you can see that little black line that goes around the edge there. I'll just leave that because it doesn't need to be any more intense than that. But, well, actually, I think it would be better if it was a little thicker. Let me make it 2. All right. So, you could even put a little more space here between the edge of the bone and the square, and then you could have everything be in a little square. Now, if you do this, it might be nice to have everything be exactly the same size. So you could create a Photoshop document where and make a square and make a stroke around it, and then shrink all these things down so that they're all the same size inside of that. Now, you can still go the route of having it kind of go back and forth across your page like this, or you could do something like kind of the table layout that I was talking about. And for that, I'll just kind of show you an example here. I'm just gonna unfortunately I'm just gonna wipe out most of the page just to show you this example. But so let me go to this page and highlight all this stuff here. Okay, I'm just gonna zoom out so I can see everything. Okay. I'm basically going to get rid of a bunch of stuff just so I can demonstrate my point here. Okay. All right. So what you could do is you could take all your graphics and you could stack them up on top of each other like this, almost like a grid, or like a table layout, like I said. Um, so let me do that. Let me try and do it again. And so on and so forth, right? And then, you could just take your text and obviously put paragraphs next to each picture. Each picture would obviously be different, but then you could do the same thing with the text. Have a little thing of text next to each picture, like this kind of thing. Now you can do this type of layout in multiple programs. You can do it in virtually any Adobe program, from Dreamweaver to Illustrator to Photoshop. You can do this kind of layout. So that this is a possibility. You could go back and forth, one on this side, one on that side, whatever design you think looks good. But there's some things uh, that will definitely help. One is if you're going to keep things in boxes, make them all the same size, and then consider putting a stroke around them. And if you're not going to put them in boxes, get rid of that all the color around it and have it just be a clean image like we were shooting for at the beginning. So those are some ideas about the layout of this page. Now I got to go back. Okay. Here's a new page we can look at. Hey, it just occurred to me, maybe if I right click, oh no, I was going to say maybe I could do uh, you know, open up a new tab with it, but it's not going to do that for me. Okay, but here's another page. Um, Once again, I like the font and the size of the text. It's easy to read. Um, you know, with this kind of thing, you might consider, uh, putting the picture in so that the paragraph kind of wraps around it. And an example of that would be InDesign is a great program for that, but of course you have to own the program and know how to use it. But if you were to do it in something like Photoshop, this is kind of what it would look like. You can kind of fake it, right? Let me see if I can figure out which one of these. It's probably this one right here. Nope. Let's see. Normally I would just be able to click on this thing and it should tell me, oh yeah, that it is all part of that. Okay, great. So let me just get rid of this blue here. Okay. So you can kind of fake the wrapping text around an image in a program like Photoshop. And by that, what I mean is um, if you take your type tool and let's say you just create a paragraph here, right? Now I'm gonna steal some junk text from this website called called lipsum.com, lipsum.com. This is a fake text generation website. So it's Lorem Ipsum is the name of the fake text. It's like fake Latin text, and that's too much probably. So I'll just get this much, and I'll come back here. I'll probably have to throw this away because I don't know where it is now. So let me go ahead and just put this text box in here and paste in my Lorem Ipsum text, and then increase the size of it so that it's, fairly big. Right now I'm going to use left align here. Now what you'll see is, obviously this is kind of going over the picture like this, right? But the way you can do this to kind of get away with it is you could put a small amount of text next to the picture and then put the rest of it after the picture. So, for example, if I copied this text box here, made a second block of text, and then let's just say in this first block of text we put just enough text to sit right next to the picture. So, I'll do this kind of thing. Faking, once again, we're faking kind of wrapping around text around a picture. So maybe I'll bump this like that, right? And then you take this block of text and you just kind of put it down here, and then you can adjust this top one, so that it looks like it's all one big text block, kind of wrapping around the picture. Now, actually, for this to look even a little better, we would try to make it so that the edge of this kind of lined up with the edge of that, and we would need a few more words, to make this really look good. Let's put some more text in here, right? And then, like I said, you can work on getting this so that it looks like it's all, part of the same paragraph or whatever. So I'm just kind of manually creating this look of wrapping text around an image. And, granted it's a bit of work, but it definitely can clean up the look and feel of your layout here. Now, like I said, Adobe InDesign is perfect for this type of layout, but of course you have to know how to use it. If you're doing this in a program like Photoshop, you kind of have to hand sort of fake it like this, and Illustrator probably a little bit of the same thing. But you could even potentially do your rule book in something like Microsoft Word, which allows you to insert images and has the ability to, wrap text around them and stuff. So, whatever works for you to get the best look that you can. Okay, so let's go back to the next page. And I believe this page here. Okay, same idea. You could, these are cool looking pictures. I like them. They look fun. And you can consider that those type of layout ideas that I've been talking about. And then it looks like we've got another page here. And these are super cute, these dogs, right? Now you might consider put a little more blank space around each dog so that they don't completely hit the edges, because it looks better. You can see like this pit bull here, especially if he had a little more room over here. You can see it, and here as well. You can see how having a little space between the edges and the dog really makes them stand out, where if they're smushed right up against the edge, it's a little rough. Okay, so I think for today, I'm just going to talk about this first game, and then I'll use the other videos that I make for um, the other days of the week. I'll put more videos in to talk about each individual game. But I just want to give you guys each, a good amount of feedback on the games that you're making. So, okay, so that is the rule book. Obviously, I didn't get into reading the text on the rule book, and maybe, further down the road, I can take some time to read the text and give you some more feedback about that. But let's concentrate on the aesthetics in this video. So then I can go back to the game itself, clicking on this link, come down here and click on the boxes, and of course, scroll down, and wherever I see a number, that means you've got something in there. And so here is the box cover. And once again, especially on this one, make sure you take the artwork and drag it, make it go all the way to the very edge of the template. Otherwise, you risk, this black line showing up. But anyway, here's your logo, which looks really cool. And then there's a dog, and, you got kind of a fun day in the park with the dogs playing, but being chased by the dog catcher. That's kind of fun. You might consider if there's any way to maybe move some of these elements down in the composition and have this bury and borrow be sort of centered and take up a large area at the top here, right? Like, once again, going back to the example of my uh, booklet here, you see how we've got the name of the book really big up there, and then we've got the artwork. So you might consider seeing if you can expand that, make it nice and big, and then bring all the artwork down. And then you have some really nice drawings of dogs on that last page of the booklet. I wonder if you want to bring some of those dogs onto the front cover here. Okay. All right. So that is the box, and it looks like we're just printing on the top of the box, which is fine. Go back here, and let's see, dice pawns and unprinted parts. Oh, wait, decks. Let's go to decks next. And so most people do things like poker decks, and so we got two decks here: the dog eat dog deck and then the event deck. So clicking here is going to show us what you would call the back of the cards, and that looks really nice. Nice graphic with the fangs. Looks good. Once again, on all the cards, make sure you go all the way to the edge with your colors. That's just sort of a general rule. I'll try not to harp on that, but it's definitely important. And then if we click Edit Cards, we see inside here. Now, I'm probably not going to go through every single card because it's kind of a pain. It jumps me out of the system, and I have to come all the way back in each time. But I'll just use selected cards. So this is the face of the card, the front of the card. Looks like there's going to be two of these. And we look at it, and it says catch, use a DI. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a reference to dice. If it is, you have to finish the word there. Or whatever you have, play hot potato, loser is the one who drops it, right? So plus one bone. Okay, so we get a bone from that. Let's see if we can look at some different cards. So here's a coin toss. Oops, sorry, clicked on the wrong thing. Coin toss, choice goes to player who drew card. Okay, so these are just different ways to, resolve situations, hot potato or coin toss or whatever. And I can see some of the cards from here. Who can lay down faster, and then you get a bone. Uh, who can balance a pen on their nose longer. So these are some fun, like physical, real world things that you do that makes the game more fun to play because you're physically interacting with each other and with items in the real world. So this is fun. Uh, these are cool cards. I like the way they look. This one's funny. Stare for dominance, staring contest. Um, so really, you got some really good ideas there. Obviously double check all your text and everything. Make sure it looks the way you want it to look. And checking for grammatical errors is really important. Make sure you do that in your rule book, and all your cards and everything has text on it, front of the box, um, because there's nothing worse than finding a big grammatical error, when you print something. Okay, but these are looking good, and I like what you guys are doing there. Um, just one note, you might consider, if you have the time, to add just one graphic to these cards. Like maybe it would just be the graphic of the bone right here in the middle. But I find that any graphic will spice up a card and help balance out the text. Okay, so let's go back here. Let's look at the other graphic. So here's the event card, and I'm not sure what this event. Maybe I should be able to figure it out. I don't know what that is supposed to reference, that graphic. Maybe it's just abstract, or maybe it's supposed to be something specific. I don't want to venture a guess because I don't want to be wrong about it. But if you guys like the way that's looking, you can keep it. If you want to get something that has a little more meaning attached to it, or that's a little easier to decipher, you could recreate that graphic so it's a little clearer what it's supposed to represent. So here's the event cards, and touching aroma wafted in your direction, you follow it and find the buffet didn't close the dumpster gates. Bon appetit, right? +3 bones. And, as always, what I'm going to say is any kind of graphic that you can add in here, even a nose smelling, or, maybe it's some sort of meat that got left outside of the dumpster and it's got like waves coming up from it from the smell. Anything that you can put on there is going to enhance the look and feel of these cards. And I know that it's a time thing. I know that we only have so much time. You got a bunch of cards here, so if you had to add graphics to each one, that would be hard. But then again, you can think about the fact that there are, websites like this one and Vecteezy, where you can find a lot of free graphics. So if I, typed in nose or something like that, you would have a lot of options here, with artwork that you could put in there. Okay, so and since we have a couple of extra weeks uh, before we have to send these to the game crafter, this would definitely be a good idea in your cards to just put some graphic on each one. Would really really spice them up. Okay, so we'll check out a few other cards here. Made the Pro Frisbee catching team, rough stuff. So you guys have some cute phrases and some great ideas here. Maybe with this, the way that you've laid out this text, don't let the text go all the way to the edge like that. Maybe, put your cursor here and hit return so that the team goes down to the next line or something like that. This will look better if it's more centered than if it goes all the way to the edge, right? And then you could put a space in before it says rough stuff or something like that. Let me show you an example. So made the Pro Frisbee catching team, rough stuff. Okay, I'll try to remember that. Made the Pro Frisbee catching team, rough stuff. So for that, I would probably say, um, made the Pro Frisbee catching team, and then rough stuff. Okay, and then in this case, you're gonna centering it is fine because of the fact that it's a little card like this. And then you can uh, sort of let me zoom in on this a little bit. Um, you can sort of reformat this a little bit so that it looks a little better. Because see, if the edge of the card were out here and you had more space around the edges of that would look a little better than if it goes all the way out to here. And of course, always having graphic there is going to be nice. Okay. And I like how big your bones are down here. It looks good. Okay, so I think that looks good. I think, as I said, you've got really fun ideas on your cards, and you've got some good elements here, like the big +1 bone, and then talking about what's happening. Maybe throw a graphic in there, and clean up wherever possible your layouts of these texts, like I just did, on all your sets of cards to make them look as good and consistent as possible. Okay, and then let's see, what else have we got? Probably the board. So we've talked about the booklet, the rule book, the decks, the front of the box, and then we'll probably have a folding board down here. And so the quad fold board is the most common. And then here's that graphic. Keep in mind these are the fold lines. There's a cut line and some fold lines, and then of course the trim line on the edge here. If you disable the cut lines, on this one it looks like you went all the way to the edge. On this one, actually, I would advise you. The area inside of this red line is what's called the safe zone. And anything that goes beyond the safe zone has the potential to be cut off and not printed. And it looks like most of these squares here are going out of the safe zone into where they could be cut off. So what I would recommend with this board is take all of these little squares and move them in so the entire square fits inside of this red line instead of going into it. Because the way the board looks now, you're going to get everything cut off right on the edge there, and it's going to look a little funky. Like the bottom of this walnut or whatever that is going to get cut off. So move all of these up and into, the more into the center. And then all that should really be in this area where the red line is just green. It should be the green of the background, goes all the way to the edge. And then when that gets trimmed off, then inside of that, you see your little squares for moving around the board. Now, let's see. If I click on this one, it'll let me go in here a little bigger. And we can see that we have the different houses here, the fences. I was fortunate enough to watch you guys play this little game a little bit, so I know a little bit of what's going on. There's the whistle, and this looks like these graphics have improved a lot, and they're looking very fun. I wonder if, I think this might have been mentioned during some of the critiques, I wonder if you want to actually add text to each of these squares, and say, say dog eat dog or something right here. Make this this little tile bigger, make each one big enough so that you can put text on them, and then actually say what they are. It's just kind of a textual or visual reminder, and then we'll know, oh, we land on dog eat dog, we have to take this card, right? Yeah, and then it looks good that you've got the grassy area here and the path. Maybe if you have some time, you can improve the graphics here with some different, some things, hash marks that looks like grass or little rocks or something on this path. Once again, some of the resources that are out there, like Vecteezy, I just happen to know because I used a graphic from them recently. If you type something like grass aerial, which means looking at grass from above, you get all these different cool things. And like, this graphic right here, this alone, you could use this kind of design on the grass, and that would spice it up a lot. And then there's even some, there's some here because I've looked at this. There's some that even have a path on them. I don't know if I can find one right away, but like a little sort of dirt path or whatever, that you could find, or you could use something like this graphic right here, use the grass color, and then take the sand color and turn it into the path or something like that. So I don't know. I'm probably not gonna find a path right away on this page. I'll take one quick look. Well, there's one, I guess. But anyway, there's a couple pages of this, and if you look even more, if you do even a wider search like just grass, you're going to find a bunch of different options for things that you can use for your graphics. Okay, so let's go back to the site here. Okay, and let's go back to Barry and Borrow Spring Heroes. Now, the other thing is you've got a bunch of dice pawns and unprinted parts in here. So it looks like these are the stand-up holders. These are the card holders that you would use, which means, you're probably going to take the cards of the different dogs and stick them in the stands. And that's going to be your tokens, if you will, as you're moving around. Obviously, these are your dice. You got a bunch of these, so I would assume those are the bones, and that's a good choice. Um, and then you've got it looks like a quarter coin, right? And maybe that's for flipping, for making choices and stuff like that. So, okay, let's see if I missed anything else. Um, I'll just double check this list here, see if there's anything else that you guys are buying. So 000s. So we got the folding board, and I think I got everything. That, the decks, the box, and the booklet. Okay. So I'm going to wrap up this video. Like I said, I'll do a different video for each of the game components that you guys have uploaded, each of the different games. This one is for Bury and Borrow. Overall, my general summary is you guys have got a great looking game going on here. Um, I like, the concept. I like the graphics. I like your cards, and I haven't had a chance to delve into the rule book, but I'll take a look at that when I get a chance. But I think you're definitely heading in the right direction, and I would say now that you have the time, a few more weeks to work on the aesthetics, please, take advantage of that time and improve those to a level where you've basically taken it up to the next level. A game design is never really done. You just get it as good as you can, and then you ship the game out, and then you improve it even more for the next version, probably. So, maybe take some of the input that I've given you today and see if you can take some of those graphics up to the next level. Do some of the layout things that I suggested with the booklet and the cards. And obviously keep in mind things like those cut lines and how those can adversely affect you. On things like the game board, you want to move all those little square tiles in a little bit so they don't get cut off. Okay, but overall, I think you guys are doing a great job. I hope you're having fun. I hope you're able to play this through Tabletop Simulator and learn more about the dynamics and the rules as you do that. Okay, like I said, this is going to be my video for today. I'll do more videos for Wednesday and try and cover all of your games in the next week so that you can have some feedback um, that you can use in your changes that you're making so that we can have these uploaded by April 24th and then ordered from the Game Crafter. Okay, have a great week, and I will talk to you again on Wednesday.